The fluorescent lights of the Seoul apartment bathroom hummed softly as Marie Clark stared at the pregnancy test in her hand. Her heart hammered against her ribs, each beat a drum of disbelief. The thin pink line was unmistakable, as clear and damning as a signed confession. She was pregnant. Her eyes lifted to meet her own reflection in the mirror, and for a moment, she didn't recognize herself. When had she become this woman? The one who had a one-night stand with a stranger? The one now carrying that stranger's child? From beyond the bathroom door, she heard movement sheets rustling, the soft groan of someone waking. Her stomach clenched. Jae-won So was still here. The man whose tattooed body she'd memorized in the darkness. The man whose kisses had tasted like expensive whiskey and bad decisions. The man who, she'd discovered too late, was not just another pretty face in Seoul's nightlife scene. He was the heir to one of Korea's most dangerous crime families. Marie's fingers tightened around the plastic test. Her mind raced through the events of the past few weeks, the club, the connection, the passion that had felt so right in the moment, and now felt like stepping into quicksand. She could hear him now, his voice deep and rough with sleep, calling her name through the door. "Marie, you okay in there?" No. She wasn't okay. Nothing was okay. Everything was falling apart, and she had no idea how to tell him. How do you tell a mafia boss, a man who controls everything with ruthless precision, that you're pregnant with his child? How do you tell him that this one night, this single moment of recklessness, has tied you both together in a way that could destroy everything? But to understand how she got here, standing in a bathroom at dawn, pregnancy test in hand, terrified of the man on the other side of the door, you'd have to go back 3 weeks, back to the night that changed everything. Marie Clark had never been the type to take risks. At 28, she'd built a life of careful decisions. She'd left Jamaica for South Korea to pursue a master's degree in international business, a move her parents still questioned. 6 months in Seoul, and her routine was predictable. Classes, part-time work at a translation firm, video calls home to Kingston, where her mother would ask when she was coming back to real life. She didn't do clubs. She didn't do strangers. She definitely didn't do dangerous men with tattoos and secrets. But her friend Sumin had been persistent. "You need to live, Marie," Sumin had said, practically dragging her out of their shared apartment that Friday night. "All you do is study and work. Come on, one night out won't kill you. There's this new club in Gangnam, it's incredible." Marie had resisted, but Sumin was like a force of nature. And honestly, she was tired of feeling like an outsider in Seoul. Tired of the loneliness that crept in during the quiet moments. Tired of playing it safe, so she'd said yes. The club was called Onyx, and it was everything Marie wasn't: loud, flashy, filled with beautiful people who looked like they belonged in music videos. The bass vibrated through the floor, neon lights painted everything in shades of purple and blue, and everywhere she looked, people were dancing like they'd forgotten their problems existed. Marie felt completely out of place in her simple black dress while everyone else looked runway ready. "I'm going to the bar," Sumin shouted over the music. "Want anything?" "Just water," Marie shouted back, already regretting this decision. She found a relatively quiet corner near the VIP section, planning her escape. 5 more minutes, then she'd tell Sumin she had a headache and leave. This wasn't her scene. These weren't her people. That's when she saw him. He was in the VIP section, separated by velvet ropes and security that looked like they could bench press cars. But even from across the crowded club, he was magnetic. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that seemed to take in everything. Tattoos that crept up his neck and disappeared under his black shirt. His hair was styled perfectly, and he wore confidence like an expensive cologne. He was surrounded by men in suits, all of them looking serious despite the party atmosphere. But he looked bored, like he'd rather be anywhere else. Then his eyes found hers. Time seemed to slow. The music faded. Everything around them blurred except for that connection. His dark eyes locked on her face with an intensity that made her breath catch. He stood. Marie's heart jumped into her throat as she watched him say something to the men around him and walk toward the VIP section's exit. Security moved aside automatically. People parted like water as he crossed the club floor. He was coming toward her. Every rational thought in Marie's head screamed at her to look away, to disappear into the crowd, to run. But she couldn't move. She was frozen, mesmerized, caught in the gravity of his approach. When he reached her, he had to lean close to be heard over the music. His voice was deep, smooth, with that particular accent that came from expensive international schools. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else," he said, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "Same." Marie found her voice. "Then why are you here?" "Obligation." He extended his hand. "I'm Jae-won." She hesitated for only a second before placing her hand in his. His grip was warm, firm, confident. "Marie." "Marie," he repeated, testing the name. His thumb brushed across her knuckles. "Beautiful name. You're not Korean." "Jamaican," she said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded when her heart was racing. "Here for school." "And your friends dragged you out when you'd rather be home with a book?" She laughed despite herself. "How did you know?" "Because I can read people." His smile was devastating, and because I recognize someone else who doesn't belong here when I see them. There was something in the way he said it, a loneliness that mirrored her own. Before she could stop herself, she asked, "You want to get out of here?" Something flickered in his eyes, surprise, maybe, or relief. More than anything, he led her through a back exit, past security who nodded at him with obvious deference. Outside, the October air was crisp and cool against her overheated skin. Seoul at night was beautiful. Neon signs reflecting off wet pavement, the distant hum of traffic, the smell of street food from nearby vendors. "I know a place," Jaewon said, already hailing a sleek black car that appeared like magic. "Quiet, private. We can actually hear each other talk." Every warning her mother had ever given her rang in Marie's ears. "Don't get in cars with strangers. Don't trust men you just met. Don't be stupid, Marie." But when he opened the door and looked at her with those dark, intense eyes, something reckless rose up in her chest. "Okay," she heard herself say. The drive took them to Hanam-dong, where the buildings got taller and more expensive with every block. His apartment was on the top floor of a high-rise with security that made Fort Knox look casual. The penthouse itself was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering city. Minimalist furniture that probably cost more than her entire year's tuition, art on the walls that she recognized from galleries. But it felt cold, unlived in. "This doesn't look like you," Marie observed, taking in the stark black and white decor, the lack of personal touches. Jaewon's laugh was bitter as he poured them wine. "That's because it's not. Nothing in my life looks like me." They sat on his couch, the city sprawling below them like a map of possibilities, and they talked. Really talked. About feeling like outsiders in their own lives. About family expectations that felt like chains. About the weight of being who everyone needed you to be instead of who you actually were. "My family has my entire future planned," Jaewon admitted, his guard dropping with each sip of wine. "Who I'll marry, what businesses I'll run, even how many children I should have. I'm not a person to them. I'm a legacy, a responsibility." "I understand that," Marie said softly. "My parents wanted me to marry my childhood friend, take over the family business in Kingston. They think I came here to run away." "Did you?" She met his eyes. "Maybe, but sometimes running is the only way to find yourself, right? I've never had that option." His voice was heavy with something that might have been envy or regret. "I'm trapped in a life I never chose." "You're choosing right now," Marie pointed out. "You chose to leave that club. You chose to bring me here. You're choosing this conversation." Something shifted in his expression, a crack in the armor, a glimpse of the real person underneath. "You're right, and I'm choosing this too." When he kissed her, it was electric. Gentle at first, testing, then deeper as she responded. His hands found her waist, pulling her closer. Her fingers tangled in his hair. The kiss tasted like wine and freedom, and the kind of recklessness that comes from two lonely people finding connection in unexpected places. "Wait," Marie pulled back, her heart racing. "I need to tell you something." Jaewon's eyes searched hers. "What?" I haven't done this before. With anyone." Understanding dawned in his expression, followed by something tender. "We don't have to." "I want to," she interrupted. Her voice was steady. "Sure. I've spent my whole life being careful, making safe choices, doing what everyone expected. Just for tonight, I want to choose something for myself. I want to choose this. I want to choose you." What happened next was tender and intense and world-tilting. Jaewon was patient, attentive, making sure she was okay with every touch, every moment. And when they finally came together, Marie felt like she was shedding an old skin, becoming someone new, someone brave enough to take what she wanted. Afterwards, they lay tangled in his sheets, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slowly return to normal. "Thank you," he whispered into her hair. "For what?" "For making me feel human again. For reminding me that I'm more than just my family name." She fell asleep feeling safe, feeling chosen, feeling like maybe taking a risk had been the right decision after all. When she woke, morning light was streaming through those floor-to-ceiling windows, and aggressive pounding shook the front door like an explosion. Jaewon was already out of bed, pulling on clothes with shaking hands, his entire demeanor transformed. The vulnerable man from last night was gone, replaced by someone tense and dangerous. "You need to leave," he said urgently, his voice low and tight. "Right now, through the service entrance." "What? Jaewon, what's happening?" The pounding intensified. Male voices shouted in Korean, angry, demanding, commanding. Marie's limited Korean caught words that made her stomach drop. "Open up. Your father. Consequences." Jaewon grabbed his phone, typed rapidly, then thrust the device at her. A phone number appeared on the screen. "Memorize this. I'll contact you. I promise I'll explain everything. But please, Marie, you have to go now." He practically pulled her toward a back hallway, helping her gather her scattered clothes. The fear in his eyes terrified her more than the shouting. "Jaewon, Who are those people? My family. The word came out like a curse. And they can't know you were here. As she rushed down the service elevator, still pulling on her shoes, her hands shaking, she could hear it shouting from above, men's voices harsh and furious, something breaking. On the street, she saw them through the glass lobby doors, men in dark suits entering the building with a kind of purposeful stride that spoke of violence barely contained. One of them had a tattoo snaking up his neck. Another had a gun barely concealed under his jacket. Marie flagged down a taxi with trembling hands, gave her address, and looked back only once. What the hell had she just walked into? The next morning, Marie tried the number. Disconnected. She searched for him online. Nothing. It was like Jae-won-so had never existed. And 3 weeks later, when that thin pink line appeared on a pregnancy test, she realized the nightmare was just beginning. 3 weeks of searching, 3 weeks of dead ends, disconnected numbers, and sleepless nights. 3 weeks of that positive pregnancy test burning a hole in Marie's dresser drawer like evidence of a crime she couldn't undo. But Sumin, God bless her, was relentless. Found him. She'd announced that morning, laptop turned toward Marie with a triumphant grin. Took some deep internet diving, but... Marie, you need to see this. The screen showed a photo from a business magazine, J1, in a perfectly tailored suit, standing beside an older man with the same sharp jawline and cold eyes. The headline read, Seo family expands empire, new hotel development in Gangnam. Seo. His last name was Seo, but it was the next article that made Marie's blood run cold. Seo family under investigation. Allegations of money laundering and underground connections. Marie, Suman had said carefully, these people, they're not just rich, they're dangerous. Are you sure about this? Marie's hand had moved instinctively to her still flat stomach. He's still the father of my baby. Now, standing outside the gleaming headquarters of Seo Industries, Marie felt that same certainty warring with pure terror. The building was all glass and steel, reaching toward the sky like a monument to power. Security guards flanked the entrance, and everyone entering looked like they belonged in a different tax bracket than her. She'd tried the front entrance twice. Both times, the security had been polite but immovable. Do you have an appointment? Mr. Seo doesn't see anyone without prior arrangement. Please leave your contact information, and someone will reach out. But Marie knew no one would reach out. She was a problem they wanted to disappear, so she waited. For 4 hours, she stood across the street, ignoring the October chill, watching the parade of expensive suits come and go. She was about to give up when the front doors opened and he walked out. Jae-won looked different in the daylight, harder, sharper, every inch the businessman from those magazine photos. His suit probably cost more than her monthly rent. 2 men flanked him, clearly security, their eyes constantly scanning the street. He was on his phone, his expression distant and controlled, nothing like the vulnerable man who'd held her that night. For a moment, Marie almost chickened out. This Jae-won belonged to a world she couldn't touch. What was she thinking? Showing up here like some desperate. Then his eyes lifted and found hers across the busy street. She watched his face transform shock, recognition, something that looked like relief, then immediate alarm. He ended his call mid-sentence and started toward her, his guards following close. Marie. Her name came out rough, urgent. What are you doing here? You can't be here. I need to talk to you. Her voice was steadier than she felt. It's important. One of the guards stepped forward. Sir, we need to leave. Your father is expecting you in 15 minutes. Give me a minute, Jae-won said, his eyes never leaving Marie's face. Sir, I said give me a minute. The authority in his voice made even the guard step back. Jae-won moved closer, lowering his voice. Marie, please, it's not safe for you to be seen with me. There are things you don't understand. I'm pregnant. The words landed like a physical blow. Everything around them seemed to stop the traffic. The pedestrians, the world itself holding its breath. Jae-won's expression cycled through a dozen emotions in seconds. Shock, disbelief, fear, and something else she couldn't name. What did you say? I'm pregnant, Marie repeated, her voice cracking. 3 weeks. And before you ask, yes, it's yours. There hasn't been anyone else. There's never been anyone else. The guards exchanged sharp looks. One of them immediately lifted his phone to his ear. Jae-won grabbed the man's wrist with surprising speed. Don't you dare call my father. Sir, if there's a situation. This isn't a situation, Jae-won's voice was cold steel. This is my business. Both of you, get the car, now. Something in his tone made them obey without question. As they walked toward a black Mercedes, Jae-won turned back to Marie. His hand reached toward her, hesitated, then gently touched her arm. Get in the car, he said quietly. Please, we need to talk, but not here. Everywhere here has eyes and ears. The drive to his penthouse was silent and tense. Jae-won kept checking the rearview mirror, his jaw clenched tight. Marie watched the city blur past, her heart hammering. She'd imagined this moment 100 different ways, but none of her rehearsals had prepared her for this. The fear in his eyes, the weight of whatever secrets he carried. His apartment looked exactly the same, still cold and unlived in, still feeling more like a showroom than a home. He dismissed the guards with a curt nod, then locked the door behind them with 3 separate locks. The sound made Marie's stomach clench. Who needed that much security? For a long moment, they stood in the middle of that pristine living room, an ocean of expensive marble between them. J1 ran a hand through his hair, disrupting its perfect styling, and suddenly he looked more like the man she'd met that night, vulnerable, uncertain, human. "I'm sorry," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "For disappearing. For the disconnected number. For making you think that night didn't matter. Did it matter?" The question came out sharper than she intended, weeks of hurt and confusion bleeding through. He looked at her, and she saw something crack in his carefully controlled expression. "It was the most real thing that's ever happened to me. That night with you, I wasn't the CO heir or my father's soldier or anyone's property. I was just me, and you saw me, really saw me. Then why? Because I turned off my phone that night." He laughed bitterly. "For the first time in my life, I ignored my family's calls, their messages, their demands. I chose myself. I chose you. And by the time I woke up, there were 20 armed men in my building. My father thought I'd been kidnapped or killed. He was ready to start a war with our rivals. Everything was chaos." Marie felt her anger soften, just a fraction. "You couldn't have sent a message? Let me know you were okay?" "They took my phone, changed my numbers, put me on lockdown." His hands clenched into fists. "I have guards outside my door, trackers on my car. My father controls everything where I go, who I see, what I say. I tried to find you, Marie. I tried. But I'm not free. I've never been free." The pain in his voice was raw, real. Marie took a step closer. "And now?" J1's eyes dropped to her stomach. "Can I?" he asked, his voice soft, almost afraid. She nodded. His hand reached out slowly, settling gently against her still flat belly. The touch was tender, reverent, and it made tears sting her eyes. "I want to be there," he said fiercely, looking up at her. "For you. For our baby. I want to do this right. J1, I saw the articles. I know about your family." Marie held his gaze. "I'm not stupid. Those men this morning, the guards, the security, the locks on your door, this isn't normal. So I need you to be honest with me. What am I walking into?" His hand dropped from her stomach. He walked to the window, staring out at Seoul stretching below them like a kingdom he couldn't escape. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with something that sounded like resignation. "My family isn't just wealthy, Marie. We're connected. To businesses that exist in gray areas. To people who solve problems that can't be solved legally." He turned to face her. "My father built an empire on deals that happen in shadows. And I'm his heir. His legacy. The son who's supposed to continue everything he built." "The Mafia," Marie said flatly. It wasn't a question. J1 flinched at the word but didn't deny it. "We don't call it that, but yes. My family controls territory, businesses, people. We have enemies. We have blood on our hands." His eyes were dark with something that might have been shame. "I never wanted this life. But I was born into it, and there's no getting out." Marie felt the room tilt slightly. This was real. This wasn't some dramatic movie, this was her life now. Tangled up with organized crime and dangerous men and secrets that could kill. "And this baby?" Her voice trembled. "What happens when your family finds out? That's what terrifies me," J1 admitted. He crossed the room in 3 strides and took her hands in his. "My father, he'll see this as leverage, as something to control. If he knows about you, about our child, he'll never let either of you go. He'll want to own you both, just like he owns me." "Then we don't tell him," Marie said quickly. "We keep it secret." "Marie," he squeezed her hands gently. "Secrets don't exist in my family. They have people everywhere. By tomorrow my father will know I brought you here. By next week, he'll know everything about you, your family in Jamaica, your school, your favorite coffee shop. That's how they work. That's how they maintain control." The weight of it hit her, then the full reality of what she'd walked into. This wasn't just an unplanned pregnancy. This was her life, her child's life, caught in the web of a criminal empire. "So what do we do?" she whispered. J1's expression hardened with determination she hadn't seen before. "We face it together, but I need you to understand something being with me. Having this baby, it puts you in danger. My family's enemies will use you against me. My family themselves might try to control you. And His voice cracked. "I don't know if I'm strong enough to protect you from all of it." "Then we get stronger," Marie said, surprising herself with the steel in her voice. She'd come too far, risked too much, to back down now. Together. Something shifted in J1's eyes, hope, maybe, or the first glimpse of defiance against the life he'd never chosen. He pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. I never expected you, he murmured. Never expected to feel this way about anyone. What way? Like I'd burn the whole world down to keep you safe. Before Marie could respond, his phone buzzed insistently on the counter. Once, twice, 3 times. Jaewon pulled away to check it, and she watched his entire body go rigid. What is it? Marie asked, fear creeping up her spine. He looked up at her, and his face had gone pale. My father. He wants to meet you. Tonight. How does he already? I told you. He knows everything. Jaewon's hands were shaking as he lowered the phone. Marie, whatever happens at this meeting, whatever he says or offers, promise me you won't agree to anything without talking to me first. You're scaring me. Good, he said grimly. You should be scared. My father is the most dangerous man in Seoul, and now he knows you're carrying his grandchild. The meeting with Jaewon's father was scheduled for 8 p.m. at a restaurant called Moonlight Garden, but calling it a restaurant, Marie quickly realized, was like calling a tiger a house cat. It's one of our establishments, Jaewon explained during the car ride, his voice tight. My father owns it, which means everyone there from the hostess to the chef to the men at every table works for him. Marie looked down at the dress Jaewon had sent to her apartment that afternoon. Black, elegant, expensive. A costume for a role she'd never auditioned for. So we're walking into enemy territory. Technically, it's my territory too, Jaewon said. But yes, my father will have eyes everywhere, ears everywhere. Whatever we say, however we act, he'll dissect it all, looking for weaknesses. Then we don't give him any. Jaewon glanced at her, something like admiration flickering across his face. You're braver than I expected. I'm terrified, Marie admitted. But I'm also a Clark, and Clarks don't run from fights. The restaurant was beautiful in a way that felt dangerous. All dark wood and ambient lighting. Private rooms separated by rice paper screens. The kind of place where whispered conversations decided fates. They were led to a private room in the back, and Marie's heart hammered with each step. Jaewon's father was waiting. Seo Tae-hyun looked exactly like his photos, sharp, calculating, with the kind of presence that made the air feel thinner. He was in his late 50s but looked ageless, his suit immaculate, his posture perfect. When his eyes landed on Marie, she felt x-rayed, analyzed, and categorized in a single glance. So, he said in perfect English, gesturing to the cushions across from him, you're the girl. Not nice to meet you. Not welcome. Just, you're the girl. Marie lifted her chin. Marie Clark. Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Seo. Something shifted in his expression, amusement maybe. Polite. Good. Sit. The next hour was one of the most uncomfortable of Marie's life. So Tae-hyun didn't ask questions so much as extract information with surgical precision. Where was she from? What did her family do? Why Korea? What were her intentions with his son? And through it all, Jaewon sat rigid beside her, his hand occasionally finding hers under the table whether to comfort her or himself. Marie wasn't sure. You're pregnant, So Tae-hyun said finally. Not a question, a statement of fact. Marie's blood ran cold. How did you? I know everything that concerns my family. He sipped his tea calmly. The question is, what do you want? I want, Marie started, but Jaewon cut her off. Father, Marie isn't here to negotiate. I'm asking her. Seo Tae-hyun's voice didn't rise, but the authority in it silenced his son instantly. His eyes returned to Marie. Money? A visa? Silence? Name your price. The insult landed like a slap. Marie felt anger rise hot in her chest. I don't want your money. Everyone wants money. Not everyone is everyone. She met his gaze head on, refusing to look away. I came here because your son deserves to know he's going to be a father. What happens next is between us, not you. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Then Seo Tae-hyun smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. You have fire. I respect that. He set down his teacup with deliberate precision. But respect doesn't change reality. That child you're carrying is a Seo. My blood. My legacy. Which means it's my concern. The baby is mine, Marie said firmly. And mine, Jaewon added, his voice steady despite the tension radiating from him. Seo Tae-hyun looked between them, and Marie saw calculation in his eyes, pieces moving on a board only he could see. Very well. We'll discuss this further when everyone's had time to think clearly. Jaewon, bring her back next week. We have arrangements to make. It wasn't a request. It was a command. They didn't speak until they were back in Jaewon's penthouse. The door locked, the world shut out. Then Marie exploded. Arrangements? She paced the living room, fury and fear battling for dominance. He talked about my baby like it's a business asset. That's what children are to him. Jaewon said quietly. He'd loosened his tie and poured himself a drink, something amber and strong. Assets, leverage, tools to build his empire. Well, I won't let him. Marie. Jaewon set down his glass and crossed to her, stopping her pacing with gentle hands on her shoulders. You saw him tonight. You felt it. My father doesn't ask permission. He takes. And if we don't figure out a plan, He's going to take everything our child, our choices, our freedom. The weight of it settled on Marie's chest like a stone. She moved away from him, needing space to think. Her eyes landed on a door she hadn't noticed before, partially hidden behind a bookshelf. What's that? My father had it installed, J1 said. A safe room, soundproof, secure. He said it was for emergencies, but really it's so he could have private conversations even in my own home. His expression darkened. There's no place in my life he doesn't control. Marie looked at the door, then at J1, then back at the door. An idea was forming, dangerous, maybe stupid, but an idea nonetheless. Take me inside. What? The safe room. If it's soundproof, if it's secure, then it's the only place your father can't hear us. The only place we can really talk. J1 hesitated, then nodded. He moved the bookshelf aside and opened the hidden door. The room beyond was small, just enough space for a table, 2 chairs, and walls lined with what looked like insulation. He closed the door behind them, and suddenly the world went quiet. Even the hum of the city disappeared. Marie sat at the table and folded her hands. I have a proposal. I'm listening. An alliance, she said carefully. Temporary, practical, purely for survival. I don't trust you, not fully, not yet. And you probably don't trust me. But we both want the same thing. To protect this baby from your father's control. J1 leaned against the wall, studying her. What kind of alliance? We work together, share information, make decisions together about the pregnancy, about our child's future. She took a breath. But we're honest with each other. No more secrets. No more disappearing. If we're going to survive your family, we need to be a united front. My father will try to divide us, J1 warned. He'll offer you money, security, things I can't give you. He'll threaten me, manipulate me. That's how he operates. Then we decide right now that we don't let him. Marie's voice was steel. Whatever he offers, whatever he threatens, we face it together. No one makes decisions alone. J1 was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching her face. You're asking me to defy my father, to go against everything I've been raised to do. I'm asking you to choose, Marie corrected. Choose fear or choose freedom. Choose his control or choose your child. Something shifted in J1's expression, the same defiance she'd glimpsed earlier, but stronger now. He moved to the table and extended his hand across it. Okay, he said. Alliance. We protect each other. We protect our baby, no matter what. Marie took his hand. His grip was warm, firm, steady. No matter what. They sat in that soundproof room, 2 people from different worlds, bound together by circumstance and choice. Outside, Seo Taehyun's empire sprawled across Seoul, full of danger and power. But here, in this small hidden space, they had something he didn't control. They had each other. I need to know everything, Marie said, not releasing his hand. About your family, their business, who our enemies are. If I'm in this, I need to understand the whole picture. Jaewon nodded slowly. It's not a pretty picture. I didn't expect it to be. So he told her. About the legitimate businesses that fronted for illegal ones. About the network of loyalty and fear that held the Seo empire together. About the rivals who'd love to exploit any weakness. About the violence he'd witnessed. The crimes he'd been forced to participate in. The blood on his family's hands. And Marie listened. Her face pale but determined. Her hand still holding his. When he finished, she asked the question that had been burning in her mind since that first night. Do you want out? More than anything, Jaewon admitted. But people don't leave this life. They die trying. Then we don't try, Marie said. We succeed, together. For the first time since she'd shown up outside his office, Jaewon smiled a real smile, fragile but genuine. You really are something, Marie Clark. So I've been told. She squeezed his hand. Now let's figure out how to beat your father at his own game. In that hidden room, surrounded by walls that kept out the world, they began to plan. Not lovers anymore, not quite friends, but something new, partners in survival, bound by a child that didn't exist yet and a future they'd have to fight for. It wasn't trust. Not yet, but it was a start. You want me to what? Marie stared at Jaewon like he'd lost his mind. Come with me to Eclipse, he repeated, already pulling out his phone to make arrangements. It's a club in Itaewon. Some of my father's associates will be there, people we need on our side if this alliance is going to work. It had been 3 days since their meeting in the safe room. 3 days of planning, strategizing, and trying to navigate the treacherous waters of Seo family politics. Marie had learned quickly that in Jaewon's world, everything was a chess move. I thought we were keeping the pregnancy secret, she said. We are, but you're going to be part of my life now, we established that. People need to see you with me, get used to your presence. If you suddenly appear pregnant in a few months, it'll raise questions. He looked up from his phone. This way. When the time comes, it's less shocking. We've been dating. These things happen. Marie hated that he was right. She hated even more that she was learning to think like him, always 3 moves ahead, always calculating angles. And these associates? They're safe? Safe is relative, but they're necessary. Jaewon's expression softened slightly. I'll be with you the entire time. I promise. Eclipse was worlds away from Onyx, where they'd first met. This wasn't a place for college students and tourists. This was where power players came to be seen, to make deals, to remind everyone else who owned the city. Marie wore another dress Jaewon had sent emerald green this time, fitted and elegant. She'd caught her reflection in his car window and barely recognized herself. When had she become this woman? The one who walked into Mafia clubs on the arm of a crime heir? Jaewon's hand found the small of her back as they entered, and the touch sent electricity up her spine. They'd been so careful the past 3 days, professional, distant, focused on strategy, but now, in the darkness of the club with bass thrumming through her chest, that careful distance felt impossible to maintain. Stay close, he murmured in her ear, his breath warm against her skin. And smile. We're supposed to be enjoying ourselves. They were led to a VIP section where 3 men waited, all older than Jaewon, all radiating the same dangerous confidence. Introductions were made, drinks appeared. Marie smiled and played her part. The beautiful girlfriend, charming but not too smart, decorative but not threatening. It was exhausting. So this is the mysterious woman who has our Jaewon so distracted, one of the men said, his eyes traveling over Marie in a way that made her skin crawl. I can see why. Jaewon's hand tightened possessively on her thigh under the table. Careful, Minsu. Just appreciating. The man grinned, showing too many teeth. Your father mentioned you'd been preoccupied lately. Good to see you're back to business. The conversation shifted to territory disputes, supply lines, things Marie didn't fully understand but filed away to ask about later. She sipped her mocktail, no alcohol, though no one seemed to notice and observed. These were the men who held Jaewon's world together, and every single one of them reported back to his father. They were being watched, evaluated, tested. After an hour, Jaewon leaned close. I need to step away for a business discussion. Will you be okay here? I'll manage, Marie said, though the thought of being left alone with these men made her nervous. But Jaewon surprised her by standing and offering his hand. Actually, come with me. I want to show you something first. He led her through the club, past the dance floor where bodies moved in synchronized chaos, past private booths where deals were made and secrets exchanged. They took a back staircase to a second floor. Marie hadn't known existed quieter, darker, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the neon chaos of Itaewon below. This is my father's office, Jaewon said, unlocking a door. He's in Busan tonight. We have privacy. The office was sleek and cold, much like Seo Tae-hyun himself, but Jaewon didn't turn on the lights. Instead, he moved to the windows, and Marie followed. Seoul at night was breathtaking from up here, a sea of lights and possibilities stretching to the horizon. Why did you really bring me here? Marie asked quietly. To the club, I mean. This isn't just about your father's associates. Jaewon was silent for a moment. I needed to see you in my world, to see if you could handle it. He turned to face her, shadows playing across his features. But also, I needed to be near you. These past 3 days, keeping my distance, treating this like a business arrangement, that's what it is, Marie interrupted, though her voice lacked conviction. An alliance. For the baby. Is it? He took a step closer, and she could smell his cologne, cedar, and something darker, more dangerous. Because every time I look at you, I remember that night, the way you looked at me like I was more than just a name, more than just my father's son. Jaewon. I didn't expect to feel this way. He continued, his voice rough with emotion. I told myself it was just one night, just a beautiful mistake. But then you showed up outside my office, and it was like someone turned the lights back on in a room I'd been living in darkness. Marie's heart hammered against her ribs. This is complicated enough without... I know. He closed the distance between them, his hands framing her face with devastating gentleness. I know it's complicated. I know we're supposed to be focused on survival. But Marie, I can't stop thinking about you. Can't stop wanting... She kissed him. Later, she wouldn't be able to say who moved first. But suddenly his mouth was on hers and her hands were in his hair, and 3 days of careful distance collapsed in an instant. The kiss was desperate, hungry, full of all the words they couldn't say and all the feelings they weren't supposed to have. Jaewon's hands slid to her waist, pulling her closer. Marie melted into him, into the heat and need and terrifying intensity of it all. This wasn't like their first night, careful and exploratory and sweet. This was fire and urgency, and the acknowledgement that they were falling into something neither could control. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jaewon rested his forehead against hers. This is dangerous, he whispered. Everything about you is dangerous, Marie replied, her fingers still tangled in his hair. But I'm already in too deep to care. My father will use this against us. If he knows I care about you, really care about you, he'll exploit it. Then we don't let him see. Marie pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. In public, we're allies, partners. But here, in the spaces he can't touch, we're something more, Jaewon finished. Something more, Marie agreed. He kissed her again, softer this time, tender instead of desperate. And Marie felt something shift between them. The alliance they'd formed wasn't just about survival anymore. It was becoming something real, something that scared her almost as much as So Tae-hyun did. We should get back, Jaewon said reluctantly. Before people notice, we're gone. Wait, Marie caught his hand. Earlier, Min-soo said your father mentioned I was a distraction. Does that mean... It means my father is testing me, seeing if I'll choose you over family loyalty. Jaewon's expression hardened. He does this, puts things I might care about in my path, then waits to see if I'm weak enough to choose them over him. And are you? Marie's voice was barely audible. Weak enough? Jaewon lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. For you? For our child? I'm discovering I'm weak enough to burn his entire empire to the ground. The words should have scared her. Maybe they did. But they also thrilled her in a way she couldn't quite name. They returned to the VIP section separately, carefully, maintaining the fiction. Marie smiled and played her role. Jaewon discussed business with cold efficiency. To anyone watching, they were exactly what they appeared to be, a powerful man and his beautiful companion. But under the table, their hands found each other. And in the shadows between words, their eyes met with understanding. They'd crossed a line tonight, moved from allies to something infinitely more complicated. And somewhere in a city that belonged to his father, So Tae-hyun was watching, waiting, planning his next move. The game had changed. The stakes were higher, and neither of them could walk away now, even if they wanted to. Okay, be honest. Team, keep the baby. Or team, run for your life. Comment below. And hey, if you're loving this drama, smash that subscribe button. My friend said this channel would never take off. Prove them wrong. Let's go. The text came at 2 a.m., jarring Marie from restless sleep. Need you. Port Warehouse District. Come alone. Don't tell anyone. JW. She stared at her phone screen, alarm bells ringing in her head. They'd agreed no solo meetings, no decisions made alone. That was the alliance. So why was Jaewon breaking their rules? Marie's finger hovered over the call button, then stopped. What if his phone was compromised? What if someone was watching him and a call would put him in more danger? She was probably being paranoid. Probably. But probably didn't feel like enough when you were carrying a Mafia heir's baby. She got dressed, left a note for Sumin, and called a taxi. The warehouse district was on the outskirts of Seoul, where the city's gleaming facade gave way to industrial decay. At 3 a.m., it was a ghost town, empty streets, broken streetlights, shadows that seemed to breathe. The taxi driver gave her a concerned look. You sure about this, miss? I'm sure, Marie lead. She found the warehouse Jaewon had described, number 47, rusted metal door, broken windows like empty eye sockets. Her phone buzzed. Inside. Second floor. Hurry. Every instinct screamed at her to run. But the thought of Jaewon in trouble, needing her, pushed her forward. She slipped through the partially open door into darkness that smelled of oil and rust and something else, something metallic that made her stomach turn. Jaewon? Her voice echoed in the cavernous space. No answer. Marie pulled out her phone, using its flashlight to navigate past abandoned machinery and pallets. She found stairs leading up, metal creaking under her feet with each step. The second floor was more of the same, empty, decaying, wrong. Jaewon, if this is some kind of test. Glass shattered somewhere behind her. Marie spun around just as the overhead lights blazed to life, blinding her. She threw up her hand against the sudden brightness, her heart jackhammering. When her vision cleared, she saw them 5 men emerging from the shadows. None of them, Jaewon. Their faces were hard, dangerous, and they were moving toward her with predatory purpose. Marie Clark, one of them said in accented English. His smile was a slash of cruelty. Jaewon Seo's little secret. You led us right to him. What? Confusion and terror warred in her chest. I don't understand. Your phone, the man gestured, and another stepped forward, snatching her phone from her hand. GPS tracker. We've been watching you for days, waiting for Seo to reach out. Thank you for making this so easy. Horror crashed over her. She hadn't led them to Jaewon. She'd led Jaewon into a trap. Where is he? She demanded, trying to keep her voice steady. What have you done? As if in answer, she heard it, a door slamming open on the ground floor, running footsteps, and then Jaewon's voice, sharp with panic. Marie, it's a trap, she screamed. Jaewon, run! Everything exploded into chaos. Gunfire erupted from below, sharp cracks that made Marie's ears ring. She heard Jaewon return fire, heard shouting in Korean, heard the warehouse transform into a war zone. The men around her scattered, drawing weapons, heading for the stairs. Marie's survival instinct kicked in. She ran ducked behind a concrete pillar just as bullets tore through the space where she'd been standing. Her breath came in ragged gasps. This was real. This was actually happening. More gunfire. Breaking glass. A scream, male, Korean. Cut short. Then she heard a sound that stopped her heart. Jaewon's voice, tight with pain. "Marie, where are you?" She peered around the pillar. Saw him on the stairs, blood soaking through his white shirt at the shoulder, his gun in his other hand. 2 bodies lay at the bottom of the stairs. 3 more men were closing in on him from different angles. He was outnumbered, injured, and he was still looking for her. Marie made a choice. "Here!" she shouted, revealing her position. "I'm here!" Jaewon's eyes found hers across the warehouse. Relief and terror crossed his face in equal measure. "Run! Get out of here!" But Marie didn't run. Instead, she grabbed a metal pipe from the floor and swung it with all her strength at the nearest attacker as he reached the top of the stairs. The impact reverberated up her arms. The man went down hard. Jaewon used the distraction to fire twice precise shots that dropped the other 2 men. Then he was moving, grabbing Marie's hand, pulling her toward a different exit. "Fire escape," he gasped, blood leaving a trail behind them. "This way." They crashed through a door onto a rusted metal platform. The fire escape groaned under their weight as they descended, Jaewon moving slower with each step, his face pale in the pre-dawn light. They could hear pursuit shouting, footsteps on metal. "Keep going," Jaewon said, pushing her ahead. "My car's 2 blocks east. Black Mercedes. Keys in my pocket." "I'm not leaving you," Marie shot back. "Marie, shut up and move." They hit the alley running. Marie supported Jaewon's weight as much as she could, his blood warm and terrifying against her side. 2 blocks felt like 2 miles. Behind them, the warehouse door burst open. They reached the Mercedes. Marie fumbled for the keys in Jaewon's pocket, too intimate, too desperate, and managed to unlock it. She shoved him into the passenger seat and jumped behind the wheel. "Hospital," Jaewon started. Too many questions. "Where else?" He gave her an address through gritted teeth. Marie drove, breaking every traffic law, her hands shaking on the wheel. She kept glancing at Jaewon, at the blood, at his face growing paler. "Stay with me," she said. "Don't you dare pass out." Wasn't planning to. His attempt at a smile came out as a grimace. "You saved my life back there. You came for me, even though it was a trap." "Of course I came for you." His hand found hers on the gear shift. "Did you really think I wouldn't?" The address led to a private clinic in Gangnam, small, discreet, the kind of place that didn't ask questions. A doctor appeared immediately, clearly familiar with Jaewon, and rushed him into surgery. Marie sat in the waiting room, still covered in his blood, shaking with adrenaline crash. It was nearly dawn when the doctor emerged. The bullet went through cleanly. "He'll recover. He's asking for you." Jaewon was in a private room, bandaged and pale but alive. When Marie entered, his eyes opened. "Hey," he said weakly. "Hey yourself." Marie pulled a chair to his bedside, emotions churning too fast to name. "You almost died. Wouldn't be the first time." "That's not funny," her voice cracked. "Jaewon, those men, they used me to find you. They were waiting. How did they know?" His expression darkened. "Someone in my father's organization. Someone who wants me gone. But your father. My father has enemies within his own ranks. People who think I'm weak, that I'm not worthy of being his heir." Jaewon reached for her hand with his good arm. "Tonight proved them right in their eyes. I chose you over strategy. Walked into an obvious trap because you were in danger. So this is my fault," Marie said hollowly. "No." His grip tightened. "This is my world's fault. The violence, the betrayals, the constant danger, that's what I was born into. And that's what I'm dragging you into." His eyes met hers, dark and serious. "I need you to understand what staying with me means. It means this. Warehouses and gunfire and blood. It means people will use you to hurt me. It means our child growing up in the crosshairs." Marie was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then she leaned forward, her face inches from his. "I could have run tonight," she said. "When those men surrounded me, when the shooting started, when you were bleeding and the smart thing would have been to save myself." She pressed her palm over his heart, feeling it beat steady and strong. "But I didn't run. I won't run. Whatever this is between us, alliance or something more, I'm in it. Completely. Even if it terrifies me. Marie, I'm not finished." She took a shaky breath. "But I need complete honesty. No more secrets. If we're going to survive this together, I need to know everything. Every enemy. Every danger. Every dirty secret in your family's closet." Jaewon studied her face, and she saw something shift in his expression. A wall coming down. A decision made. "Okay," he said quietly. "Everything. Starting with who just tried to kill us." Outside, dawn was breaking over Seoul. Somewhere in the city, So Tae-hyun was probably already receiving reports about the warehouse incident. But in that small, quiet room, covered in blood and exhaustion, Marie and Jaewon made a new promise: no more half-truths, no more protection through ignorance. If they were going to face this world together, they'd do it with eyes wide open, even if what they saw terrified them both. The summons came 2 days after the warehouse incident, delivered by a man in a black suit who appeared at Jaewon's penthouse door like an omen. "Your father requests your presence at the estate," he said in Korean. "Both of you, tonight. 7 p.m. It's not a request." Marie watched Jaewon's jaw tighten as he closed the door. His shoulder was still bandaged, his movements careful. He knows. Knows what exactly? Everything. Jaewon moved to the window, staring out at Seoul like a prisoner looking at freedom. The pregnancy, the warehouse, the fact that I chose you over strategy, all of it. How? Because my father knows everything. He turned to face her, and Marie saw something she'd never seen in his eyes before: genuine fear. And now he's ready to make his move. The Seo family estate was in Pyeongchang-dong, where Seoul's elite built mansions that looked more like fortresses. As their car wound up the private road, Marie felt like she was entering enemy territory. Guards were stationed at intervals, cameras tracked their approach, and the gate that opened for them looked designed to keep people in as much as out. The mansion itself was traditional Korean architecture, mixed with modern luxury, all dark wood and stone, sprawling across manicured grounds, beautiful and cold as a mausoleum. "I grew up here," Jaewon said quietly as they parked. "In this house, I was never a child. I was an investment, a legacy, the next piece on my father's chessboard." Marie reached for his hand. "We face this together. Remember? Together," he echoed, but his voice lacked conviction. They were led inside by silent staff, through corridors lined with expensive art and family portraits. Marie noticed there were no photos of Jaewon smiling as a child, only formal shots, his expression already learning to hide emotion. The study they were shown into was massive dark wood paneling, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a desk that looked like a throne, and behind it sat Seo Tae-hyun, with 3 other men flanking him like generals. "Sit," Seo Tae-hyun commanded. They sat in the chairs positioned before his desk positioned, Marie realized, to make them feel small, powerless, like children called to the principal's office. "2 days ago, my son walked into an obvious ambush to save a woman," Seo Tae-hyun began, his voice calm and terrifying in its control. "He was shot, nearly killed, all because of poor judgment and emotional weakness." His eyes shifted to Marie. "All because of you." "Father," Jaewon started. "I'm speaking." The words cracked like a whip. "You will listen." The room fell into heavy silence. Marie felt the weight of the other men's stares, assessing her, judging her, finding her wanting. "The warehouse attack was orchestrated by the Park family," Seo Tae-hyun continued. "They sought to exploit what they perceived as a weakness, your attachment to this woman. They failed to kill you, but they succeeded in proving a point. You are compromised." "I handled it," Jaewon said, his voice tight. "You barely survived." Seo Tae-hyun leaned back in his chair. "But that's not what we're here to discuss. We're here to discuss the fact that this woman is carrying my grandchild." Marie's blood ran cold. Beside her, Jaewon stiffened. "How long did you think you could hide it?" Seo Tae-hyun's smile was sharp as a knife. "I have doctors on payroll at every hospital in Seoul. The moment Miss Clark visited a clinic for pregnancy confirmation, I knew." He pulled out a folder, sliding it across the desk. 12 weeks along, due in June. "My grandchild, my legacy, my blood." Marie felt exposed, violated. "You've been spying on me?" "I've been protecting my interests," Seo Tae-hyun corrected. "And now we must discuss how to manage this situation." "Marie isn't a situation," Jaewon said, his voice hardening. "And our child isn't your property, isn't it?" One of the other men spoke up, older, with a scar running down his cheek. "The child carries Seo blood. That makes it family business. That makes it our concern." "Exactly," Seo Tae-hyun agreed. "Which brings me to the solution. You'll marry her. Immediately. A quiet ceremony, family only. We'll announce it as a love match, legitimize the pregnancy, and bring both woman and child under family protection." "Protection or control?" Marie asked, finding her voice despite her racing heart. Seo Tae-hyun's eyes locked onto hers. "In this family, they're the same thing. And if we refuse?" Jaewon's hand found Marie's under the table, squeezing tight. "Refuse." Seo Tae-hyun's laugh was cold. "My son, you misunderstand. This isn't a negotiation. This is me informing you of what will happen." He stood, walking around his desk with predatory grace. "Miss Clark will marry you. She will live in the family compound where she and the child can be properly protected and monitored. The child will be raised as a Seo, educated in family business, prepared for their role in our legacy." "No." Marie stood, anger overriding fear. "I won't let you turn my child into another chess piece." "You won't let me?" Seo Tae-hyun moved closer, and Marie suddenly understood why people feared him. "Miss Clark, you seem to misunderstand your position. You're carrying the heir to a billion-dollar empire built on power and influence you can't begin to comprehend. Did you think you could simply walk away? Raise this child in obscurity? If I have to. You can't. His voice was soft, final. Because if you try to run, if you try to keep my grandchild from me, I will destroy everything you love. Your friend Suman? I know where she works, where her family lives in Busan. Your parents in Jamaica? I know about your father's struggling business, your mother's medical history. I can make or ruin lives with a phone call. Marie felt the room spin. You're threatening my family? I'm explaining reality. So Taehyun turned to his son. Jae-won, you have a choice. Marry this woman, legitimize the child, keep them both safe within family structure, or don't and watch me remove all other options from the board, because that child will be a CO, one way or another. Jae-won stood slowly, his face pale but his eyes burning. You would threaten the woman carrying your grandchild? I'm securing my legacy, So Taehyun corrected. Something you should understand. This is how power works through control, through leverage, through ensuring loyalty. He returned to his desk. You have 3 days to decide. After that, I decide for you. And trust me, son, my way will be far less pleasant for everyone involved. The meeting was over. They were dismissed like servants, escorted out by the same silent staff. Marie didn't speak until they were back in the car, driving down that long driveway away from the mansion. Then she broke. He means it, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. He'll hurt my family. He'll take everything. I won't let him. Jae-won's voice was raw with fury and helplessness. Marie, I swear. How? She turned to him, all her fear and anger spilling out. How do you stop him? He controls everything. He has power and money and people everywhere. We can't run. We can't hide. We can't. Her voice broke. We're trapped. Jae-won pulled the car over, gathering her into his arms despite his injured shoulder. We're not trapped. We're cornered. There's a difference. What difference? Cornered animals fight back. He pulled back, cupping her face, his eyes dark with determination and something else, something that looked like rebellion. My father made a mistake tonight. What mistake? He showed his hand. Proved he'll do anything to control this child. Which means we know exactly what we're fighting against. Jae-won's jaw set in a hard line. He wants us married? Fine. We'll marry. We'll play his game. But on our terms with our plan. What plan? The one where we burn his empire from the inside out. Jae-won started the car again, his expression harder than she'd ever seen it. He wants to make our child his legacy? We'll make sure there's no legacy left to inherit. Marie stared at him, seeing clearly for the first time the man Jae-won could become not his father's son, but something far more dangerous. A son with nothing left to lose. That's treason, she whispered, against your own family. I know. Jae-won's smile was sharp and cold and full of promise. But you were right before sometimes running is the only way to find yourself. And if I can't run, then I'll destroy the cage they built around me. The drive back to Seoul felt different now. Behind them, the Seo family estate glowed like a warning. Ahead, the city sprawled full of danger and possibility. They had 3 days to make a choice. But Marie realized Jae-won had already chosen. They left Seoul before dawn, while the city still slept and So Taehyun's surveillance was at its thinnest. Jae-won drove them south in a car he'd borrowed, not one of his own. Nothing that could be easily tracked. Marie watched the city lights fade in the rearview mirror and felt like they were stealing moments that didn't belong to them. Where are we going? She asked as the first hints of sunrise painted the sky. Somewhere my father doesn't own, Jae-won said. At least not yet. The beach was 2 hours outside Seoul, nestled in a small cove that looked untouched by development. The sand was pale gold, the water impossibly blue, and the only sound was waves meeting shore in an ancient rhythm. A friend from university owns the house, Jae-won explained, parking near a small cottage that looked more like a painting than reality. He's in Europe for the year. No one knows about this place except him and me. So we're safe here? Marie asked, though she was learning that safe was a relative term in Jae-won's world. For today. He turned to her, his expression soft in the early morning light. I know we need to plan. I know we only have 2 more days before my father's deadline, but I needed this one day where we're just us, not the CEO heir and his burden, not chess pieces on my father's board. Just Marie and Jae-won. Marie felt something in her chest crack open. Just us, she agreed. They walked the beach barefoot, Marie's hand in his, the water cold against their ankles. At nearly 4 months pregnant, Marie was just starting to show a small curve that Jae-won's eyes kept drifting to with a mixture of wonder and fear. Can I? He asked, gesturing to her stomach. Marie nodded, and he placed his palm gently over the slight swell. His hand was warm, steady, and Marie saw his expression transform the hard mask he wore in Seoul, falling away to reveal someone younger, more vulnerable. I'm terrified, he admitted quietly. Of being a father. Of being my father. Of turning into the thing I hate most. You won't, Marie said with certainty. You're already different. You're choosing us over his empire. Am I? Jaewon's laugh was bitter. He moved his hand away and continued walking. Or am I just dragging you deeper into darkness? Maybe my father's right. Maybe the kindest thing would be to let you go, keep you and the baby safe by staying away. Don't. Marie grabbed his arm, forcing him to face her. Don't you dare use noble sacrifice as an excuse to push me away. I've made my choice, Jaewon. I'm here. I'm staying. Why? The question was raw, desperate. Why stay with someone who comes with enemies and danger, and a family that will try to control every breath you take? Marie was quiet for a moment, listening to the waves, feeling the morning sun warm her skin. You want to know when I knew? She finally said. It wasn't the first night, though that was beautiful. It wasn't even when you came for me at the warehouse, though that mattered. It was in the hospital after, when you were bleeding and scared, and you still looked at me like I was worth dying for. She stepped closer. No one has ever looked at me like that. Like I matter more than anything else in the world. Jaewon's eyes glistened. You do matter. You and this baby, you're the only things that matter anymore. Then fight for us. Marie's voice was fierce. Not alone. Not by pushing me away. Fight with me. Let me be your partner in this, not something to protect from a distance. He kissed her, then soft and desperate, and full of all the words they hadn't said. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. Tell me about Jamaica, he said. About who you were before all this. I want to know everything. They spent the morning on the beach, sharing pieces of themselves they'd kept hidden. Marie told him about growing up in Kingston, the heat and music and her mother's laugh, the pressure to be perfect, the suffocation of expectations that led her to Seoul. Jaewon talked about a childhood devoid of warmth, private tutors instead of friends, lessons in manipulation instead of play, a mother who'd died when he was 8, and a father who'd never forgiven him for grieving. I wasn't allowed to cry at her funeral, Jaewon said, staring at the horizon. I was 10, and my father pulled me aside and said, "Co men don't cry. Weakness is death." So I didn't. I haven't cried since. That's not strength, Marie said gently. That's survival. There's a difference. Is there? He looked at her. Because sometimes I can't tell anymore. Sometimes I think I've been surviving so long I've forgotten how to actually live. Then let me teach you. Marie took his hand. We'll figure it out together how to live instead of just survive. How to build something that isn't built on fear and control. They returned to the cottage for lunch, simple food that Jaewon prepared with surprising skill. Marie watched him move around the small kitchen and saw glimpses of the man he could have been in a different life. Relaxed, almost happy, unguarded. What? He asked, catching her staring. I like this version of you, Marie said. The one who isn't performing for anyone. He only exists with you. Jaewon came to sit beside her, pulling her close. Everything else is armor. After lunch, they lay on the beach, Marie's head on Jaewon's chest, his fingers tracing absent patterns on her arm. The sun was warm, the sound of waves hypnotic, and for a few hours, they existed outside the reach of Seoul and threats and impossible choices. What do you want? Marie asked. If we could have anything, if your father's control didn't exist, if we were free, what would you want? Jaewon was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, this, a beach, you, our child, mornings without fear, nights without nightmares, the freedom to be nobody important. His voice cracked. I'd want to be so ordinary it was extraordinary. Tears slid down Marie's cheeks. We'll get there. Somehow. I don't know how, he admitted. My father's grip is absolute. And even if we run, even if we try to escape, he'll hunt us. He'll never let his grandchild go. Then we make him let go. Marie sat up, looking at him seriously. You said we'd burn his empire from the inside. I need to know you meant it. That when the time comes, you can choose us over him, over everything you've known. Jaewon sat up too, taking both her hands in his. Marie Clark, I swear to you on my life, on our child's future I will protect you, even if it means destroying my family, even if it means becoming the villain in their story. You and this baby are my family now. You're all that matters. Promise me something else, Marie said. Promise me you won't sacrifice yourself, that we find a way where we all survive, including you. Because I need you, Jaewon. Not as a martyr, but as a partner, as a father, as the man I'm falling in love with. The last words slipped out before she could stop them, hanging in the salty air between them. Jaewon's expression transformed shock, then joy, then something that looked like pain and hope mixed together. You love me? I think I have for a while, Marie admitted. Even when I shouldn't, even when it's terrifying. I love you too. The words came out raw, like they'd been trapped inside him forever. I've loved you since that first night, when you looked at me and saw a person instead of a name. I've loved you through every moment of chaos we've survived, and I'll love you through whatever comes next. He kissed her, tender and deep and full of promise. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Marie felt something like hope. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. They lay tangled together in the cottage, skin against skin, barriers stripped away. Their lovemaking was different from the first time, slower, deeper, weighted with meaning and commitment. When Jaewon moved inside her, his eyes never left hers, and Marie felt like they were making a promise that transcended words. Afterwards, as twilight darkened the windows, reality began to creep back in. Jaewon's phone buzzed, once, twice, 10 times. Messages from his father's people, demands to know his location, threats wrapped in polite language. "We have to go back," he said quietly, still holding her. "I know." Marie pressed a kiss to his shoulder. "But we had today." "Today," Jaewon agreed, then softer. "I wish I could give you a lifetime of days like this." "You will," Marie said, trying to believe it. "After we survive the next 2 days. After we find a way out." But as they drove back to Seoul under a sky full of stars, both of them knew the truth. The peaceful hours at the beach had been borrowed time. Now the debt was due. Somewhere in the city, So Taehyun was waiting, and tomorrow, they'd have to face him with a plan that could either set them free or destroy them all. They arrived at Jaewon's penthouse at midnight to find the door already open. Marie's blood turned to ice. "Jaewon, stay behind me." He pulled his gun from the glove compartment, a weapon Marie had learned he always carried, a reminder of the world he lived in. They entered carefully, and what they found made Marie's stomach drop. The penthouse had been ransacked, furniture overturned, drawers emptied, the safe room door torn open. And standing in the wreckage, waiting like a spider in its web, was Seo Taehyun. He wasn't alone. 6 men flanked him, private security, loyal only to him, their expressions cold and professional. "You ran," Seo Taehyun said calmly. "I gave you 3 days to make a decision, and you ran to a beach like children playing at freedom." "We needed time to think," Jaewon said, his gun still drawn but not aimed. "Not yet. You needed time to plan." Seo Taehyun moved closer, his eyes sharp. "Did you really think I wouldn't have the borrowed car tracked? That I wouldn't know about your friend's cottage?" He laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. "I've known about your little escape routes for years, son. I let you keep them because they made you feel independent. But there is no independence from this family. There is only obedience or consequences." "We've made our decision," Jaewon said. "We'll marry, but we do it our way. We live separately from the family compound. We raise our child with boundaries." "No." The single word cut through the air like a blade. "You misunderstand. The time for negotiation has passed. You ran. You chose her over family loyalty. Again." So Taehyun's expression hardened. "I gave you every opportunity to do this the easy way. Now we do it mine." He gestured, and 2 of the men moved toward Marie. Jaewon's gun came up instantly, aimed at his father. "Don't." The room froze. Marie's heart hammered so hard she thought it might break through her chest. This was it, the line they couldn't uncross. "You would point a gun at your own father?" So Taehyun's voice was soft, dangerous. "For a woman you've known mere months?" "For the woman I love," Jaewon corrected. "For my child. For the family I choose, not the one I was born into." Touching. Seo Taehyun nodded to another guard, who suddenly grabbed Marie from behind, an arm around her throat. She gasped, struggled, but the grip was iron. "Let her go," Jaewon's voice cracked with fury. "Lower your weapon," Seo Taehyun commanded, "or watch her choke." The arm tightened around Marie's throat. Black spots danced in her vision. She clawed at the guard's arm, unable to breathe, terror flooding her system. "The baby. God. The baby." Jaewon lowered his gun. "Good." So Taehyun gestured, and the guard released Marie. She collapsed to her knees, gasping. "Now we can discuss this rationally. The girl will be taken to a private facility." "A facility?" Horror filled Jaewon's voice. "Where the pregnancy will be terminated safely and discreetly. She'll be compensated generously and sent back to Jamaica. You will marry someone appropriate from one of our allied families. The scandal will be contained, the family's reputation intact." The words hit Marie like physical blows. They were going to take her baby. Force her to. "No." Jaewon's voice was steel. "Absolutely not. This isn't a negotiation, son." "You're right. It's not." Jaewon moved, faster than Marie had ever seen him move. He grabbed her, pulling her behind him, his gun aimed not at his father but at the guards. "We're leaving. Now. And if anyone tries to stop us, I'll start shooting and deal with the consequences. There's 6 of them and 1 of you." Seo Taehyun pointed out. "The math isn't in your favor." "Maybe not." Jaewon's smile was cold. "But I'm betting I can take at least 3 of them before they drop me." "Can you afford to lose 3 men tonight, father? Can you afford to lose your heir?" "I can get another heir." The casual cruelty of it made Marie flinch. But Jaewon just laughed, harsh and bitter. "Can you? Because I've spent the last week making some insurance arrangements. Files. Evidence. Documents detailing every illegal operation the Seo family has run for the past 20 years. Names, dates, bank accounts, everything. Seo Taehyun's expression shifted the first crack in his control. You're bluffing. Am I? Try me? Jaewon's voice dropped to something deadly. Those files are set to upload to every major news outlet and law enforcement agency in Korea if I don't check in with my contact every 12 hours. If something happens to me, if something happens to Marie, if our child is harmed in any way, your empire burns. You would destroy your own family? Seo Taehyun's voice shook with barely contained rage. You stopped being my family the moment you threatened my child. Jaewon pulled Marie toward the door. We're leaving. Don't follow us. Don't contact us. In 6 months you'll receive a birth announcement. That's the only involvement you'll have in your grandchild's life. Jaewon. Seo Taehyun's voice was low, dangerous. If you walk out that door, you're dead to this family. No money, no protection, no name. You'll be nothing. I'd rather be nothing with her than everything with you. They were almost at the door when Seo Taehyun spoke again. Kill them both. Everything exploded. Jaewon fired first 2 shots that dropped the nearest guards. Marie screamed, ducking as bullets tore through the penthouse. Glass shattered, wood splintered. Jaewon shoved her into the hallway, returning fire as they ran. The stairs, he shouted. Don't use the elevator. They crashed through the stairwell door as bullets chased them. Jaewon was firing backward, covering their retreat, and Marie realized with horror that he was outgunned, outnumbered, buying her escape with his life. Keep going, he yelled. Get to the garage, take my car. I'm not leaving you. A bullet caught him in the side, spinning him against the wall. He gasped, blood blooming across his shirt, but kept moving. They made it down 3 flights before the door above burst open. More guards, more guns. Jaewon turned to face them. Marie, run. No. She grabbed his arm. There. She'd spotted it, a maintenance access, a narrow corridor the guards couldn't see from above. They ducked inside just as more bullets tore through the space they'd occupied. The corridor led to a service elevator. They crammed inside, Jaewon leaving bloody handprints on the walls. Marie hit the garage button, praying it would work. You're bleeding, she said, pressing her hands to his wound. You're bleeding so much. I'm okay. He wasn't. He was pale, swaying, but his eyes were fierce. We just need to get to the car. Drive to the airport. I have a plane waiting. Fake passports. You planned this? Marie realized. The files. The escape route. I planned for war, Jaewon said. The moment my father threatened you, I knew it would come to this. The elevator opened to the garage. They stumbled out, but Seo Taehyun was already there, having taken the main elevator. He stood alone between them and freedom, and in his hand was a gun. You forced my hand, he said to Jaewon. I gave you every chance, every opportunity to choose family over sentiment, but you're weak, just like your mother. My mother was the strongest person I knew, Jaewon said, because she loved despite you, and I'm done being afraid of you. He raised his gun. So did his father. Marie moved without thinking, stepped between them, her hands raised. Stop, please. Just stop. Marie, move, Jaewon commanded. No. She looked at Seo Taehyun, tears streaming down her face. You want to kill your son? Then shoot through me. Shoot through your grandchild. Live with that. For a long moment, the garage was silent except for the drip of Jaewon's blood hitting concrete. Then Seo Taehyun lowered his gun. Go, he said, his voice empty. But understand you are dead to me, both of you. If I see you again, there will be no mercy, no second chances. I don't want your mercy, Jaewon said. I just want freedom. They got into the car, Marie driving because Jaewon could barely sit upright. As they pulled out of the garage, Marie looked in the rearview mirror. Seo Taehyun stood alone in the empty space, looking suddenly old, his empire intact but his son gone. Where to? She asked Jaewon. He gave her coordinates to a private airfield. Somewhere he can't find us. Somewhere we can be nobody. Marie drove through Seoul's midnight streets, leaving behind danger and power and everything they'd known, toward something terrifying and uncertain, toward freedom. The private plane took them to Thailand, first a refueling stop where a doctor Jaewon trusted patched the bullet wound in his side, then to Malaysia, then finally to a small coastal town in New Zealand that looked like it existed outside of time. The house was simple, white weatherboard, blue shutters, perched on a cliff overlooking the Tasman Sea. It belonged to one of Jaewon's mother's relatives, someone who'd left Korea decades ago and understood the need to disappear. It's beautiful, Marie whispered as they stood on the porch, watching the sun set over endless water. It's ours, Jaewon said, his arm around her waist. 3 weeks had passed since Seoul. 3 weeks of running, hiding, constantly looking over their shoulders. But here, finally, they could breathe. The first month was healing. Jaewon's wound closed slowly, and Marie's pregnancy progressed. She was showing properly now, the curve of their child visible to the world. They lived quietly, buying groceries in the small town where no one asked questions, taking walks along the beach where the only footprints were theirs. "Do you miss it?" Marie asked one evening as they sat on the porch, watching stars emerge. "Soul, your life before." Jaewon was quiet for a long moment. "I miss who I thought I could become. But I don't miss the cage." He placed his hand on her belly, feeling the baby kick. "This you, our child, this freedom, it's worth everything I lost." "We lost everything," Marie corrected gently. She thought of Jamaica, of her parents who couldn't know where she was for their own safety, of Soo-min who'd cried when Marie called to say goodbye. "But we gained each other." "Each other," Jaewon agreed, pulling her close. But peace, they were learning, was fragile. It started small, a car that drove past their house twice in one day, a man at the grocery store who looked too interested, a phone call that disconnected the moment Marie answered. "I'm being paranoid," Marie told herself. But Jaewon had taught her that paranoia kept you alive in his world. The proof came on a Tuesday morning when Marie was 6 months pregnant. She was making breakfast when she saw the envelope slipped under their door, unmarked, ominous. Inside was a single photograph. It was of her and Jaewon on the beach the day before. The angle suggested it had been taken from a distance with a telephoto lens, and written on the back in neat Korean characters that Jaewon translated with a pale face. "The Seo family remembers. Distance means nothing. We are watching." "They found us," Marie breathed, her hand instinctively going to her belly. "How?" "It doesn't matter how." Jaewon was already moving, pulling out phones and documents they'd kept packed for this moment. "We have to move. Now." "Where?" Marie felt tears threaten. "Jaewon, we can't run forever. Sooner or later. I won't let them take you." His voice was fierce, desperate. "I won't let them take our child." But that night, as they debated whether to run again or stand their ground, Marie's water broke. "No," she gasped, feeling the warm rush. "No, it's too early. 6 months is survivable," Jaewon said, though his face was white with fear. "The hospital. We can't. If your father's people are watching, then they're watching." Jaewon's voice cracked. "I don't care. You and the baby come first. Always." The drive to the hospital was the longest 20 minutes of their lives. Marie gripped Jaewon's hand through each contraction, terror and determination warring in her chest. Their baby was coming early. They were exposed. Danger was closing in. But they'd survived worse. The hospital staff rushed them into emergency. The delivery was complicated, the baby too small. Marie's body not ready. She heard words like preterm labor and neonatal intensive care and felt Jaewon's hand never leaving hers. "I can't do this," she gasped between contractions. "Yes, you can." Jaewon's voice was steady, anchoring her. "You're the strongest person I know. You crossed an ocean. You stood up to my father. You saved my life. You can do this." So she did. At 3:47 a.m., their daughter was born tiny, fragile, but fighting. The doctors whisked her away immediately to the NICU, and Marie only caught a glimpse impossibly small fingers, a shock of dark hair, lungs that protested being in the world too soon. "She's beautiful," Jaewon whispered, tears streaming down his face. "Marie, she's perfect." "Is she okay?" Marie asked the doctor desperately. "She's a fighter," the doctor said with a gentle smile. "Premature, but stable. The next 48 hours are critical, but I've seen babies born earlier than this thrive." They named her Alana Irish for precious, and also close to the Korean Alna, meaning to know, a name that belonged to both their worlds. For 2 days, they lived in the hospital. Jaewon never left, sleeping in a chair by Marie's bedside, jumping at every unfamiliar face. Marie recovered slowly, pumping milk for a baby she could only see through NICU windows, counting the hours until she could hold her daughter. On the 3rd day, as Marie was finally allowed to hold Alana, feeling that impossibly light weight against her chest, seeing dark eyes that were pure Jaewon staring up at her, a man in a suit appeared in her hospital room doorway. Marie's heart stopped. "Jaewon," but Jaewon was already moving, positioning himself between the man and his family. "Who are you?" "Relax." The man held up his hands. "I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm here with a message from So Tae-hyun." "Tell him to go to hell," Jaewon said. "Actually," the man pulled out an envelope. "He wanted me to deliver this. And to tell you that he's calling off his people. No more surveillance. No more threats." "Why?" Jaewon's voice was suspicious. "Why would he?" "Because his granddaughter was born premature and fighting for her life, and it made him remember that his wife, your mother, was also premature, also a fighter." The man's expression softened slightly. "He's not forgiven you. He may never forgive you. But he's decided that his grandchild deserves a chance to live without fear. Consider it his only gift to her." The man left the envelope on the table and departed as quietly as he'd come. Jaewon opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a single document, a legal agreement stating that the Seo family relinquished all claims to Alana, that Jaewon was officially removed from the family registry, and that both parties agreed to have no further contact. It was freedom in legal form. Is it real? Marie whispered, not daring to hope. With my father, who knows? Jaewon looked at her, at Alana sleeping peacefully in her arms. But it's a chance. Maybe the only one we'll get. Then we take it, Marie decided. We take our chance, and we build something beautiful from it. 6 months later, Alana was thriving, healthy, happy, hitting every milestone her doctors had worried she might miss. The house on the cliff had become a home, filled with baby laughter and the ordinary chaos of new parenthood. Marie stood on the porch one evening, watching Jaewon play with Alana on a blanket in the yard. He was teaching her to recognize birds, pointing at the sky, his face soft with a joy she'd never seen in Seoul. They'd sacrificed everything, country, family, fortune, the lives they'd known, but watching her daughter grab her father's finger and laugh, watching the man she loved finally at peace, Marie knew the cost had been worth it. Mama, Alana called, reaching for her. Marie joined them on the blanket, and Jaewon pulled them both close, his 2 reasons for living, his entire world contained in this moment. Do you think we're safe? Marie asked quietly. I think we're free, Jaewon corrected. And sometimes that's the same thing. The sun set over the Tasman Sea, painting the sky in colors that looked like hope. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, it always did. But tonight, they had each other. And sometimes, love was the only weapon you needed to survive. What an emotional roller coaster. If you loved this story, there's more drama waiting for you. Click the next video appearing on your screen right now. I've got more twists, more romance, and more danger lined up. Subscribe so you never miss an upload, and comment part 2 if you want me to continue this series. Your girl needs to know you're invested. Love you all. See you in the next video.